Hello, everybody, and hello, Matt.
Hey Matt,
Hey, how's it going? You guys are together. What's up with that?
we're in sunny Sydney.
Nice, excellent.
It's been a little bit cold and rainy back in Melbourne, so we decided today
Take a
to
day trip.
to get out of the sheds and like experience some sun. Actually, it was so sunny that we had to pull down the blinds, so you're seeing
The shades.
the back of the city here through the shades in the office. So yeah, hello everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Devs in the Shed,
Or Dev's in the Sydney office.
of Devs in the Sydney office. For anybody in the audience, let us know where you're at today, and whether it's sunny and it's appropriate to be out in the shed, or whether you should be back in your office. Yeah, for anybody new to the stream, at Devs in the Shed, we like to build things. We're builders. Sometimes that's like on our computers, building software or building some sort of architecture or stitching something together. But often we want to get a little bit more hands-on, do some IoT pieces. And I'll probably say it's been a little while since we've done IoT, but we're hoping over the next few weeks to, what do we say, like building and powering the internet with fire. So we might be having that come up on the show in the next few weeks. But to introduce myself, I'm Paul Kukiel, Solutions Architect at AWS. Aaron?
I'm Aaron Senf, Principal Solutions Architect at AWS also, and Matt.
Yep. So I'm a technical account manager working at AWS as well. I just noticed, just to call out to everyone, let us know if you can see us on Twitch. I can see ourselves on my end, but I am seeing an error in the AWS channel Twitch stream. So
Yeah. I
I
did
think
see
we're
that.
I think we're live, but let us know in the audience if we're definitely live. Yep.
Yeah,
So yeah, we'll see how we go today. But we've had a couple of interesting discussions of things that might want to come up on future episodes of the Shed. I had a customer talk about using DynamoDB and potentially building some ledger functionality in that, and I built out a little bit of a quick proof of concept on how you can implement something like that. So I think that's one we'll talk about in another session. One of the other things that we're working on was, we do talk about DynamoDB as like effectively like this infinitely scalable, key value pair database. And what does that look like when you actually go ahead and load up hundreds of millions, billions, or even a trillion rows in DynamoDB? So getting a sample data set of that size to test against, it takes time. It actually takes a long time. It was much more difficult than I expected to be able to get a sample data set that has a billion rows in it. So I've been building out some proof of concepts around that. That would be something interesting to show how fast it is to retrieve items based on their index from a DynamoDB table that has a billion rows in it, for argument's sake. See what that looks like.
Well, the
Uh,
other cool one that you showed me a couple of days ago, and I know it's still got a little bit of time to get ready, was the ledger, Paul. That
yeah.
was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so,
Um,
so the ledger was one that I mentioned, and that was using transactions. So a lot of people are still unaware that Dynamo does provide the ability to perform transactions. So you can have two different tables and run transaction across those tables. So you can do I don't know, like live summation based on a specific transaction going in. So if you're moving money from one person to the other and you want to keep a live update, how do you go ahead and do that with something like DynamoDB? We're used to operating with transactions in our relational database, so SQL Server, Postgres, MySQL, something like that. But it is actually available for Dynamo as well. If one of those inserts or updates fail, it'll roll back the whole transaction.
Cool.
And next week we've got a special guest, Andrew Hooker, coming in, and he will be taking us through a whole bunch of event-based architectural patterns. So it's like he's built out a good library, a pattern set, but also there's some hands-on demos, so we can see what that looks like, and there's some code that he'll be able to share as well. So we'll be able to get hands-on with that. So it'll be really interesting. Today we're going to go back to our building out our LEX bots. So maybe Matt, recap where we're up to last week, and we'll kick off and see where we're up to.
Yeah, I always need to remind myself because I have a memory of a goldfish sometimes. But I think let me get my screen up, and Aaron and I can kind of talk through the basics of how LEX works. I know that we cover this each time, but I do kind of feel like if you're coming in, you're watching the stream for the first time, it's worth kind of having a quick recap. And the good thing is all of that kind of sits within the LEX interface, so I can get familiar with where we got up to last time with the chatbot. So my screen should be up, and I'm slowly going to get there. So last 2 times that we've streamed, we've been working through this LEX chatbot. It's relatively simple at the moment. It is a swag chatbot. So the idea is if you want to order some sweet swag for yourselves, we'll have this up and running at some stage. Aaron has kindly volunteered to work on a UI in one of the future streams for this. At the moment, we've got a greeting, we've got a fallback. We started working on a product listing intent, and we probably want to have like a product info and a product order intent to go along with this, so people can kind of like find out a bit about the item, then put in their shipping information, and then have this sent off to them. And the other thing that I've been kind of contemplating is, do we need a database of some sorts behind the Lambda that's interacting with all of this?
Yep.
So
I would say we do for the stock and the levels.
Yeah, maybe let's just like quickly before we go into like the finer details, recap what this would look like. So you a customer would come to the website. They're looking to get some swag. They want some specific swag, and that might be post an event or something like that. And we want an automated agent or a chatbot agent to be able to interact with that person. So the person could talk to the agent, say, "I would like some swag." The agent goes and says, "Oh, okay. Do you want swag? Is that what you want?" Yes, they've confirmed that they do want some swag. It's gone and checked a list of particular items, like a product listing, so the available swag for those people, and come back and said, "Here's the available swag." From that point on, now we want to say, if you pick a specific swag item, whether it be a t-shirt or some socks or something like that, it can come back and confirm the specific size, gather some information, and process that request for you, completely automated.
Cool. And in terms of a recap of LEX itself and the way that it works, you have intents. Intents are effectively what you're trying to do as an end user. Utterances are how you might ask that. So I might want to greet the chatbot. So I'd say, "Hey there." But Paul or Aaron might say, "Howdy there," or "Hi there," or "Hi." So utterances kind of map to how different people would speak to the chatbot with the same intent. You've got slots. So when a chatbot needs data to do a particular thing, those will be slotted in with bits of data that needs to collect from an end user before it can fulfill the intent and action whatever it is that's needed to be done, right? So you can see the conversation flow here, the example. Usually... Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
I'll just add to that with your slots, right? So a basic data slot is like Paul just said, right? The size. If you're ordering socks might be one slot. If you're in swag intent, size might be another slot. But one important thing that we haven't shown in the last episode that we may be able to do in this episode, depending on where we get to, Matt, but is actually showing in the utterance how you can actually call out the specific piece of data in the utterance is a slot. So if I say I want socks, then the LEX bot might come back and say, "What size do you want?" to fulfill that slot. However, if Paul says I want large socks, then we can point out to the LEX bot that large is the size, and so through the utterance, it's fulfilled the data slot. So it won't come back and say, "What size do you want?" because it now knows to fill that data slot with the size. So there's multiple ways of filling data slots.
Yep. And the fulfillment at the end of the day is kind of like when the slots have been filled, when the intent can be filled, and the chatbot can do its thing, right? So it might come back with a piece of information to help you. It might wrap the conversation up. It might give you a list of the products that are available or the sizes of the socks that are available. And so that's kind of where fulfillment comes in. So that's like a quick and dirty on the basics of LEX. What we've built so far is we've got a greeting, we've got a black hole or a fallback intent. So if something that the user says can't be recognized, we can reprompt the user to repeat what they've said and try and find an intent that kind of matches that the chatbot's capable of serving. If there is no intent that can be discovered with the customer kind of re-asking the chatbot a few times, we can then actually optimize LEX, and we might look to build a new intent if that's a new journey that we decide that we should take into account. Or secondarily, like if it's a wildly different way of saying, of an utterance to an intent. So it might be someone saying hi in a way that we've never seen before. Then we could actually like bind that to the training data and train the chatbot up on that particular utterance. Now the other one that we do have was the product listings. So we had some sample utterances to basically start the journey after hi, where people can ask for some swag, see what's on offer. And then what we did is we built a Lambda that basically says what's available. And that Lambda is quite simple. So I might just jump out to the Lambda section of the console. I'll open that in a second tab. And look for swag. And part of this is familiarizing myself with where we got up to as well. But you can see that down the very bottom here, we have our Lambda handler that's passing into this dispatch, which is working out what intents we're going to have Lambda support. And the one that we are supporting is effectively that product list intent that I showed beforehand. So we have t-shirts. Now, what I do want to do is I want to get like products built out now, right? So thinking about it, how are we going to structure this up? This is going to be interesting because we could create a product category with some slots, but is that actually going to meet the flexibility that we need, Aaron and Paul? Just thinking about it.
Yeah, I was thinking products would be more like a listing of what types of products are available, but then we would need to have an intent for ordering socks, an intent for ordering t-shirts, an intent for, so then that would go through, if you say, what swag can I have? That would be the product intent. So you can say, you can select from t-shirts, socks, hoodies, and then you go, oh, I want to order a hoodie. Well, that would be part of the ordering hoodie intent. And then it'll go through and it'll fill the data slots, like what's your size, what color do you want, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. I was thinking we need to be more granular than just a product. We need to actually be specific because t-shirts have a size, whereas socks kind of still do have a size, I guess. But they might not have like a gender.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You might have a cut. So t-shirts have a male and a female, whereas socks are just generic.
Yep. Or unisex. It really depends on the supplier, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what we do want to do then is create a series of intents. So let's start with the first one. Let's go order t-shirt, right? So add that in. One thing that I would like to actually see, and I used to hack this in the JSON, but I used to be able to duplicate intents through the JSON. But we don't have that luxury in the UI.
No.
We'll focus on this one first, then we'll build out other intents. So we know that we've got a t-shirt. The Lambda's going to say there's t-shirts available. What we are going to do is we're going to build out some utterances. I want to get a t-shirt. And we're probably going to have to look at like how we've trained the utterances in that top level intent as well, right? Because we might, if someone comes in and directly asks for a t-shirt, we don't need to give them a product list. We just want to take them straight to this ordering intent.
Yeah.
So just say, can I have a t-shirt? Shirts. Do you have t-shirts? So lots of variations. It's okay to misspell things as well.
So maybe do you have t-shirts would actually be an utterance for the product list, because then the product list might be the types and volume. So like we have 10 t-shirts.
Yep.
But then the order t-shirt would be
one large t-shirt.
Yeah. Can I order a t-shirt, or do you? Yeah. I want a t-shirt, or I want a large t-shirt. Yeah.
Okay, so what we'll do is we will take out, do you have t-shirts?
We need to add that to the product. list.
Yeah, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this intent and then go over to the product list and then clean this up. So this is where you like when you're building a chatbot, you've got to think of these things, right? Because if you've got utterances that are very similar, the accuracy might have the chatbot say one thing that you don't want.
Yeah.
You want to kind of make sure you've got the journeys relatively well handled. I used to examine the customer's sentiment to work out if we were actually saying the right things to customers, and then whether we needed to pull the chatbot to a live person. So we've got do you have t-shirts there, so we've already kind of got like one that's like that.
So just on that too, Matt, like this is a little bit of an advanced extension to building out a LEX bot, but we can actually, so last week we covered off a little bit more around integrating with the Lambda, right? So the Lambda that Matt just had a look at allows us to validate data that we're handing from the intent into the Lambda, but we can also use that to integrate with other services in AWS. So we actually have an intent service. We also have other AI/ML services that you can use that Lambda to hand some of that data off, and you may be able to use that to hand off the response from the customer to say, do they seem happy? What's their what's their emotional state here with their response to that question, and then we may use that to trigger one of a few different responses back to the customer. So based on their, are they happy with that response? Yes, then we can say, hey, we can do this for you. Or if they're not happy with that response, then, the sentiment, we may have something else to support a sad sentiment or something. So it's just a way of integrating with other existing services to enhance your conversational capability.
Yep. So what we've done is I was just updating the ending sentence because once you hand over to LEX, it kind of handles everything up to the end of fulfillment, it looks like, as we discovered last week. So we were trying to give a post our Lambda being called in the fulfillment category or the closing response category, but that wasn't coming up. So what I've done is I've just merged that with the text that the product list is going to come back with to the customer. We've got no dynamic checks here at all. Like we're just assuming that like at the moment the default journey is t-shirts, so it's a bit hard coded. But like looking back at what I was doing just beforehand, I don't think any of these are going to trip up the order t-shirt journey accidentally. And I think the do you have t-shirts is in there so that we can like just list off what we've got and take them to the product listing as we just discussed. So I've just saved that intent. I've moved over to the order t-shirts intent, and I'm just going to double check that we've got the right utterances here. So that looks fine to me.
So the difference that Matt is saying is like when we say, can I have a t-shirt? That would imply that you're ready to order a t-shirt, whereas do you have t-shirts is back at the product list to determine whether or not you actually have the t-shirt itself. And that's the difference between the two. Like if you have too much similarity between those different intents, you might end up like skipping a particular step or confusing the system.
Yeah, you might go straight to the ordering process where it's like you've already assumed that they've selected an exact t-shirt, which is not ideal. Like the customer will be like, oh, why is it asking for my address now? What's the context? Whereas if they've specifically asked for t-shirts, they know that that's what they want, and that's why they're getting asked the next set of questions.
You want to do the slot and join it to the utterance. So here we can add like size, a size slot.
Yep. Yeah, so we are going to have to create some slots. Amazon does have a whole bunch of built-in slots here. But
yeah,
we do.
Wondering if we should check if there's a pre-existing Amazon size slot.
There is not. That's why I was just going into it. I was just having a quick look. I think if we had a US chatbot rather than an Australian chatbot, you would see that. But I think I set it up as EN/AU. So if I'd selected EN/US, I would have had a lot more.
There's a limited amount of shared slots.
Yep.
So we want to create a size slot.
Yeah. So we might have a new slot called t-shirt size. That was not intended on this type. And the values will be
Small, medium, large, extra small, and extra large, or just small, medium, large for now?
Yeah, that'll do for today. Small, medium, large.
Medium, and then large, and then I'll put in all the other sizes.
Is there such an size XXXL?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there is. We don't encounter it too often in Australia, but there is. Okay, so that kind of does the sizings. Now, like we'll do the gender of the t-shirts separately. So I'll save the slot type. And now what we'll do is we'll add in the free types of t-shirts that I've seen when I've gone to order t-shirts. So I'm going to go back to slot types, and I'm going to add another blank slot, and I'm just going to call this t-shirt
type.
Oh man, my typos are terrible today. There we go. And this is going to be the unisex size, the universal unisex size, and then you've got male, and then you've got female. Do we do children's as well?
No, because then we would have to go through the go back and tick that this chatbot is targeted to children.
Oh yeah, that's a good call out. So I think that's it. Is there anything else that we need for a t-shirt?
Color maybe?
Color, yeah. Let's add in color. Design was the other one that I was thinking, but I don't know how fancy we want this to get.
Well, yeah, because you could have long sleeve, short sleeve. But they're t-shirts. Let's just stick with short sleeve t-shirts.
V-neck short sleeve?
Oh yeah, V-neck, or yeah, good point.
I think we're making it too fussy.
I think what you said might be like appropriate for have design, and the design might be like an AWS branded t-shirt or an Amazon branded t-shirt. I want it to be, so I want a medium sized male Amazon t-shirt or a small AWS female t-shirt. Like that would make sense, because we may have like multiple styles of the t-shirts come out, but probably unlikely that we're going to do multiple cuts for swag.
I'm thinking, do we want to go down this? I'm actually going to like make a call and say let's keep it simple for now.
Okay. Yeah, it's just t-shirts. We will decide what the type of design is, and you can order a male.
Because I'm thinking like the
male large gray or male large. You know, like add a couple of colors.
Yeah, like the devs in the shed, like dungeon crawler variant versus the devs in the sheds, like metal Australian Outback shed version.
Yeah,
like I think might have different designs.
You could potentially go as deep as you want if you're like, if there's a lot of specific questions around the item that you're ordering, and Lex will be able to handle all of that.
Yeah, or we might actually have like an interim step where it's like we actually have a separate intent for t-shirt designs, and then we list the exact ones, and then we kind of go through the ordering process and then just get to, you know, the details that were allowed for the particular t-shirt order.
Yep.
Okay.
We might have to put a disclaimer on the ordering process saying that color, size, and design may vary from what's pictured. You just get random luck of the draw.
Hey, that's the best. You know, like, and then we can just basically we'll decide in the Lambda, right? We'll just like have a random range for all the designs, and it's like lucky dip as to what we're going to send.
I ordered a women's small blue, and I received a men's gray, large.
Hey, and then we've got a swap meet. Like everyone can catch up and swap t-shirts. Okay,
that's a different kind of system that we'll build though, not a LEX bot.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see how we do this in V2. So order t-shirts. I want a. Is it like this? If I remember correctly. Actually, let's add the slots first, right? So I'll call this size. What size t-shirt? And then we might have another slot added for that type, so that we kind of built them separately so we can reuse them if we have other things that need like a shirt size. And then this one's going to be type.
What type of shirt?
Type of t-shirt would you like?
So this is what you're filling out. This prompt here is if the utterance doesn't contain any of those data slots, then the LEX bot will know to respond with, what it'll go through them. It'll like, what size do you want? What type do you want? And then you respond. But we also, and I think that's what you're doing now, is I want a size t-shirt. So what Matt's done there is he's put in that data slot into the utterance. So now we can actually specify, I want any of the sizes that are inside that type that he's created, any of the types inside that data slot type that he's created. And then if all of those conditions are met in the utterance, it'll pre-fill or it'll fill those data slots. So then the LEX bot won't have to come back and prompt for that data.
Yep. And the other thing is don't assume that everyone's going to give you all the data all at once, right? So what I've noticed of chatbots is sometimes people like want to ask very exact things when they go into chat. Other times they'll just ask for the general thing, like I want the t-shirt, and then you've got to kind of have these prompts and the slots to fill that. That's why we've got what size t-shirt and what type of t-shirt would you like. But then you'll have other people that kind of already know what they want, and they're going to assume that you might know their the gender, or they might assume that you know their size, or they might not have thought to ask that, but they might have given you the other value, which is kind of why we've got like these 3 different variations to help with the training.
Keep in mind too, like it's not always about training, it's about context. So a lot of conversational design at the start, like with a basic bot, you don't have a lot of the context as to why the customer has come here asking. So somebody might actually be wanting to order some swag as a gift for somebody else. So you may have the context that this is a woman who is, a small. We have that context already because they've ordered previously, but actually this time they're ordering for their friend who is a man who is a large, so you can't just say, oh, because you previously ordered this, that the context will remain the same. So different conversational flow helps with understanding the current context as opposed to previous context that you may have had. Now, we haven't got into the advanced sort of nature of conversational flow yet, but you can see just by the few utterances that Matt's added that this can start to become very complex, and you can have many, many, many utterances to just try and fulfill many different conversational contexts. So what's the starting point? Where are people coming from? Just because people are ordering swag doesn't mean they're all here to order swag for the same reason.
So I've just noticed I need to add one more into my training data, right? I would like a large one, please. So sometimes they might actually not tell you that it's even a t-shirt. They might just assume that because you said t-shirt before, they don't need to type that again, right? So sure. I've just said large one.
Have a large one, please.
Yeah, that should
be like the size as the placeholder instead of large.
Yep, that's right. I thought I had put that in, but there we go. And so I'll go, could I have a large t-shirt? Yeah, I know I have to. Yeah. But I can see that we're caught in a cycle. So let's do this build again.
When you start going down this path of like many different, it's like a tree, right? Like as a tree fans out, like you've got to capture all this data to progressively move forward. It actually reminds me of, like, I guess what I'll say is like the very first program that I wrote, which was like just a batch file with if else's, and I built a choose your own adventure game. And in that game, all you did was like choose one response or the other. And then it would fan out into this like huge like piece that like I had so many different paths you could go down. It was like very difficult to manage all the way through. And you can see that even just ordering t-shirts, like there is a lot of work to capture all the data to be able to provide someone with the response that they need. Like it looks like it's really, really simple to come together, and the interface is made to be simple. And once you get the hang of it, like you understand what it is to build it. But the paths that you're going down and to capture all the pieces of data and to round off every single edge without getting stuck in a loop somewhere or stuck not being able to provide the correct information, it becomes a bit of like, there's a fair bit of overhead here to work out all of the different steps that are required to fulfill the intent that the customer has.
So we that's a perfect example. We actually, so when we build out conversational context on top of, say, utilizing something like a LEX bot here, as a basics example, we do actually do tree traversal. As a basic example, we would use something like, we don't use Prim's algorithm, but for those who understand what Prim's algorithm is, understanding the least cost effective, or the most effective path, so the least energy path from start to finish. So doing tree traversal, Prim's algorithm, doing tree traversal through nodes to get from point A to point B, but you need to fulfill data slot 1, data slot 2, and data slot 3. What's the most effective way to traverse that tree to get all that data with the actual weight on each of the paths might be, the length of the conversation, or it might be the total length of the utterance or whatever. So we want to use the smallest amount of responses, what size, what blah, versus what size can I get for you? It depends on what is the weight that we set in the algorithm, but we do tree traversal through node collection. So we have to collect through nodes via weighted routes. And that's one way that we actually build out our conversational flow when we understand a context and when we understand what data slots we need to fill, but we also understand, how we need to get through a conversation quick because we know that there's more coming. So like Paul was saying, like that one tree might be the very start of a path which fulfills one thing that branches out into another whole tree. And so you end up going through multiple trees. And so you want the most cost-effective path, or the most resource-effective path, or whatever you want to call it, the least resistance path to get from point A to point Z all the way down the bottom, which ends up being a full conversation. So you don't want to wear out the person by asking them too many questions, but you want to get all of the data that you need to fulfill their order.
So Matt, a question that might come up from some people in the audience is, like, the chatbot is great, and what we've built here is like reasonably static in terms of like when we're trying to fill that order, like with our sizes, for example. If we were actually building like a good customer experience chatbot, we would not offer a t-shirt that we did not have in stock. So we would say, what sizes do you want? And we would check like our database at the back end with a Lambda function, and that will return a list of sizes. How do we marry up a dynamic sizing list back into those specific slots that we're looking to fill?
Yeah, so the first thing is that you'd actually do a pre-step to offering the t-shirts. So like when you come in and say, like in the product list, we have t-shirts available, what you actually want to do is you want to show a series of cards of the available t-shirts, and then have the sizes listed underneath those as well. And then when the customer then goes, could I have a large one of those? Or a large one of that one, they could potentially just click a button, like for a good user experience where they've selected in the cards. Or if you haven't gone to that fancier extent, or you're restricted by how much you can build out in the UI, because it's a lot of effort to build the UI for chatbots, then you could simply have the user come back in and fill these slots. But ideally, like, everything's going to be a pre-check as well. Before you offer these things, where you're effectively using that same Lambda that we've built, but like before the customer starts try and fill out the slots, you actually hit the Lambda up to find out what is available. So you don't do that in the fulfillment step, because you don't want to come back and say, I'm sorry, we don't have large of this, and then have them cycle through another version of your t-shirts conversation with another design t-shirt. You want to check beforehand to make sure that it's upfront and people know what's in stock, so they don't pick that particular one if it's not going to fit their needs.
That's exactly what I mean by context, right? So you've now got, all of the stock that's available, the products that are available, their numbers and stuff. So if somebody comes and says, I want a large, black man t-shirt, and then you say, well, sorry, we're out of the color black, we don't have large. Then I want a small blue, and then so we don't. Instead of going through all of that, it might come back and say, I'm sorry, we only have these three colors and these three sizes. So it's the more effective way of communicating the data to then fill the slots, as opposed to going through everything and basically burning the customer out on asking questions.
It's the same as we built like in a previous role, we built a ticketing when purchasing online tickets. There's nothing worse than saying, I'd like 5 tickets for a specific event, getting to the payment screen and it says, sorry, those tickets aren't available for you. You want as early as possible to say, there are, how many tickets do you want? 5. Okay, there's 5 available. I've temporarily reserved them for you. Let's move all the way through to the payment screen. So you're guaranteed to move on from your selection criteria to fulfillment without having to, reject the customer and provide a bad customer experience where you think, yeah, great, I've locked away that large T-shirt. I'm definitely going to get it. There's an emotional piece that comes into that. You're ready, you're excited, you're ready to go forward. And then to be told, no, sorry, that's not in stock. Many times I've closed the website when I've got to the checkout and it doesn't happen there. I'm like, I don't want to know about it. You've got me this far. Like, I'm annoyed now because it's not available to me.
Yep, and I'm gonna pick on Paul actually because it's fun, I think one of the things that I'm just doing now is I'm testing the chatbot, right? And I ask, could I have a large T-shirt, right? Like, generally Paul will message me and he's like, hey Matt, I've just found this secret link in reInvent and we'll be able to score this free T-shirt. And so we don't need to go through that hi there journey. We don't need to go through the product listing journey. Like, what Paul's going to say is, like, just go here, fill out this information, and go, I want a large male T-shirt, right? And if I get signed out of my account.
You got signed out.
Yeah, I did. Give me 2 seconds. Oh, man. Let's get back into that and try that again. Come on. Okay, let's go back to LEX. So we are getting there, but I want a large male T-shirt, right? So if I go directly, you can see just like one line and I've done the entire thing and I've skipped both that product listing and greeting intent. So this is the beauty of like knowing what you're asking for with chatbots. And this is something that, like, if Paul or I knew that there was like this deal on and we knew exactly what the deal would be, like we would go in there and just ask for the exact thing, right? Like if we had like this special T-shirt that we knew was there, we'd use this method.
Yep.
Now
it kind of makes the experience more human, right? Like, imagine if you were if you're at an event and then you say, can I have a large T-shirt, please? The person who's there is going to look at you and say, oh, well, you're a male, so I want a male, and they want a large. So great, I don't need to ask what size do you want and what gender do you want. You've told them exactly what you wanted, so it can help get you there quicker.
So what size T-shirt? Go large again. So you see how I said I want a men's T-shirt? Like at the moment, the slot only knows male. So this is something that I need to fix up next. So I'm going to go back into this, the slot type. And I'm going to go to types here. And
you might even want to add his and hers because, like when you go to a hotel, they have his and hers towels. So sometimes people ask for a his T-shirt or a hers T-shirt or just another pronoun that people use for gender.
Yep. So this is kind of like a little bit different to how I'd like these things to work, but this is how it works in every chatbot platform at the moment. But I would really like to have utterance types essentially for slots, right?
Yeah.
Because now at some code level, I'm going to have to aggregate that these things all mean the same thing, right?
Yeah. You'd like to say like there's two, there's a male and there's a female, but a male consists of man, male, boy, those sorts of
things. All that kind of stuff, right? Because at the moment, like what we've just done now is like we've essentially added 5 separate types.
Yep.
Rather than in reality like 3 types, right?
Yep.
So that should fix up the journey. The other thing
you didn't add men's or woman's.
No, there's way too many. Let me go in here.
Yeah.
While you're there, you might as well add guys and girls.
Yeah, guys and girls.
That was the purpose. Was like I typed men's and I realized it didn't come up like the first time.
Guys, girls.
So this is where I would really love to see that feature in a chatbot platform. I haven't seen it in any. Yeah.
This also really helps with. Not the chatbot feature that you want to add. I totally agree with that. But I'm thinking like as you can see, how there's the complexity of so many different types. Like realistically, in terms of the t-shirts that we're offering, there's 3 types. There's gender non-specific or unisex, there's male and there's female. But the pronouns that we use to describe those 3 different types can be different based on the context of who's asking, not what's on offer. So you've got to cover all those bases. But extending that to the actual validation Lambda, so the actual Lambda that we can use to provide data back to the intent allows us to also pull data across intents. So if we somewhere had another intent where we were discussing with the person talking that, you know, I'm a man, or I'm looking for male swag or something like that, which isn't fulfilled in the t-shirts ordering. It's like it is. There's the type data slot in the order t-shirts, but we now know from the context of the conversation that, well, this person has said they're looking for male swag. Then, you know, we can actually use that validation Lambda to create what we call a variable, a session variable. So now we can check the session variables every time we initialize an intent, and we look at the Lambda. It can pull the session variables and say, have we already fulfilled one of these slots? So we can say, yeah, we've got this from another intent, and then fill that data slot. So now when they say, I want a large t-shirt, to Paul's point before, like the more human experience, when you're at an event and you say, I want a t-shirt, they can see that I'm a man, they'll give me a men's t-shirt. Well, we've got that experience now by handing session variables between intents around.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And, you know, one of the things that you can do is you can actually carry over context from previous intents. So, like, you know, there's banking scenarios where you might be working on a particular savings account, transferring money, not your check account or your credit account. And you want to remember whenever someone performs an action that it's going to be of the specific account type that they're kind of in the subtree for at the moment.
Yep.
But also when we actually do the testing here, there is a way.
You could demonstrate that with the products list. You could maybe, at the end of the products list, you could say, are you interested in male or female, or men's or women's, or whatever, unisex men's or women's? And when they select men's or women's, then they'll say, oh, what type of swag would you like? And it'll say, I want a t-shirt. And then it's already pre-filled, you know, carries that context forward to the order t-shirt intent, because you've already selected from, you know, the previous intent has already asked you, you know, what are you interested in?
Yeah, and then if I wanted to see that programmatically to kind of aggregate things down to what we had before, like it's all in the effectively the context that's given, right? Into the Lambda. So like when I'm talking to a back-end system, I can aggregate things here when I check the ordering system to make sure that those particular types of t-shirts are in stock, or, you know, when I'm submitting the order, that it's mapped to the exact right type that I've got in the back end as well. And so you can get a list of all those slots effectively just from calling a particular function. So I think this is like relatively well thought out for t-shirts now. The one thing that is a bit of a gap still, thinking about it, is in my utterances I've got like, I would like a something one, please, right? So the system's not really going to know what one is. So I'm going to have to work at a different time on having a bit more context to these.
That would be like, I would like a large t-shirt, please. But you could take that, I would like a one, please, to...
I could just go like that, right?
It could just be straight up size and type could be like one as well.
Yep.
What do you want, large?
Because even though one to us means a t-shirt, I don't like, as long as it trips the journey and fills the utterances, I don't think it cares what else is appended to that sentence.
I would be interested to try out if you said, I would like a size type, and then also add the utterance, I would like a type size. Because some people might come in and say, I'd like a women's small, please. Somebody else might come in and say, oh, I'd like a large men's. You know, like, it's the same information, but like, is it smart enough?
Different ways, yeah.
It can also just be straight up type size type.
Yeah. I don't need to say I would like. It's just, if it's going to prompt, you know, what type would you like? Large men's.
Yep.
Small women's.
Could even be question mark. So the idea is give it rough utterances. It's actually like it is relatively robust. So I do reckon if I come in here once it's built, I think it will hit it even without me asking, like, with a question mark at the end.
So that was one of the enhancements from LEX version 1 to LEX version 2 is that there is a natural language processor under the hood. So although you're sort of spelling out utterances, it is smart enough to pick up on something that's similar and maybe not exactly the same. This is where the danger comes, though, between having too much likeness between your utterances in different intents, because now it may not know which one to send it to, and that's when it falls back to the fallback intent. But if you have a good definition around what your utterances are for this intent, then it learns from the utterances you add there. So somebody may say something slightly different, but it's similar enough to the existing series of intents that it will understand what it's asking for.
Yeah, so you can see I just went large female. If I refresh, like,
Done.
Should be able to do a switch around. So I'll go
female. What about if you did female large? What would happen there, Matt? It's not going to catch that, is it?
Female small.
It got both. It's like clever
okay.
enough.
Yep. Good.
One of the things that I do want to show though as well is one thing that we haven't explored yet on the episode is in the bot versions. Is this where it sits? There was a way to basically train. So if there were missed phrases, I could tie to intents. So I knew where this was in the V1 UI. And I'm just.
So I thought that was only a part of Alexa, not in the LEX engine.
It was actually in the LEX engine.
Do you maybe have to have published the bot?
No, I just think it's in a slightly different section.
Under utterance statistics.
Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, there it is.
Yep. So it is here. So like if it was detected and then missed, like I would see it here. This does take I think it's 30 minutes. Yeah, it says here updated every 30 minutes. So if I said something like let's say something odd. Let's go. Yar.
Yeah.
I'm a pirate, right?
Where is me treasure?
We have t-shirts. Okay, so nice. So it's on the ball on that one. Let's just say what is a lambda? I think that is actually hitting the black hole intent, the fallback intent.
Intent fallback. Yeah,
it is.
So because we haven't set up a fallback, it's just saying that it's fulfilled the scenario for a fallback.
Yep. So if we wanted to delete that fallback and we wanted to come back in half an hour, and we want to say that again, we'd see it in the missed intents. And then the cool thing about that is like you can select it in the UI, and then you can go add utterances to a particular intent, right?
Yeah.
And so that means that like ways that we've not realized people ask questions as programmers, when this actually goes out into the wild yonder, we can pick it up and we can train it.
So this is great, because this is actually what I was saying in last episode around this is what I loved about Alexa and how Alexa allows you to take missed utterances and add them to your intents. I didn't realize that in version 2 for LEX, they've actually implemented the same thing. So that's great, because now when you've got a version, so a version is essentially a published copy of your bot out in the world and people are actually using it, you can come back and see live data and say, oh, well, that should have been fulfilled by that intent. And it helps to teach the utterances, helps to teach the intents what utterances it should be fulfilling.
Yeah, exactly. This has actually been around since V1. It was just hidden in the old settings section.
Cool.
So it has been around for a fairly long time. But the other thing is, like, we haven't really needed it, considering we've got this like catch-all.
It might just be because I'm used to using the API, so I knew it was there from the API side, so you can fulfill or add utterances to intents. I just didn't realize it was in the UI. This is great. This helps for those who are more visual and like to work within the console to be able to see the live data coming in and send it over to the right slots, to the right intents.
Yeah, and what we used to do at my previous place, even though we had a slightly different UI that we built on top, is we would have contact center agents that are training the bot on certain conversations, as well as our conversational writers, designers, they call them, and testers. We would all have them use the visual interface as we constructed things programmatically with LEX and other platforms. We would have them in this visual interface, and they'd be looking at the statistics that are coming in. They would be mapping things that were missed to the correct intent. They would also, the one thing that was really interesting is like, how do you unit test a chatbot? That was something that we worked on towards the end of my time there. But
you wouldn't unit test the chatbot. You would unit test your integrated Lambda, like so your validation Lambda, but you would more integration test your chatbot.
Yeah. So the way that we were thinking about it was, if you've got, we had like 500 plus intents in some of our chatbots, even though we were separating chatbots by sales and service and other types. We'd end up with 500 intents, and when you've got that many intents, usually I'd say start small, the build 4, build another 2, and just keep going as you build a chatbot. But like, you'd have some people that are fairly eager, and then they come back to you with 500 intents built out. Like, what we wanted to do was we basically wanted to have an alarm go off when the accuracy changed towards a new intent versus a previous intent. Yeah. And so we were actually like heat mapping the versioning of what was being added to LEX, essentially. So it was like, hey, this is red now in this part of the journey tree. So we had like a tree-based structure. We go, this is red now, and the accuracy's dropped 26%. We probably think that you didn't mean that. Have you got like utterances that are too similar between the two, and are you not setting context right? Yeah. And to do that, we basically like would run like hundreds of thousands of fake conversations through as well to get that like heat map generated and the accuracy data back with enough information to make that call that like, hey, something looks different to like the version that was saved like 15 minutes ago. Because this is like, versioning is a big thing when it comes to like as your chatbot builds out in complexity. So
the good thing is, it's like, you know, when we build like applications, so something that we've built on the web, we as developers presume customers will use the application in a specific way. The reality is most people will do something different, right? So in exactly the same way as if, like I remember we were doing some early exploratory UI testing, and the designers mocked this specific platform out, and then they sat you in front of the computer and they said, show us what you would do to like purchase an item. And you move the mouse to certain points in the page, and they're like, oh, you moved the mouse to somewhere different that I expected you to move to. Like, why did you do that? Like, what was the, you know, what was your meaning behind doing that? And the designers say, oh, okay, like I get it. As part of our design, we've accidentally made it so that people sort of look to one area, whereas we thought they were always going to go to the top left or something like that. That can be difficult to track, like unless you're observing and watching what people are doing all the time. Whereas here, it is constantly observing and tracking what's happening all the time, and then highlighting some of those like missed opportunities that you can say, oh, let's take advantage of this. People are looking for long sleeve t-shirts or something. I don't really know, like whatever it might be. And you can say, right, people are consistently asking for something that we don't have, or they're asking in a way that we haven't, you know, thought about them asking for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's a really good point, because then you could go ahead and create that utterance like for long sleeve t-shirts, right? As a new intent for order long sleeve t-shirts, but then all of those live data that's come through, leave them there until you've created the intent, then say, send all of these utterances to that intent. So the next time somebody comes in and says, oh, can I order a long sleeve t-shirt? Instead of saying, sorry, we don't have long sleeve t-shirts, it says, yeah, sure. Let's you know, what size would you like? Are you looking for male or female or whatever? It's, yeah. And you just adding functionality off of live data.
Yep. Yeah, they're constantly observing and changing and updating is what's like really important here, because we just don't know what our customers are going to do, and likely, in all likelihood, they're going to do something different than we expect. Like that should be always your expectation. Don't think you're going to design it perfectly from day one.
Yep.
And understand that that will change, and that could change like over time with trends, and that could change year to year when like different sets of terminology come in, you know, year to year.
Yep. So if you were watching in the background, I was just sneakily doing some changes. I basically, for this order a t-shirt, in the fulfillment, I configured the advanced options to talk to a Lambda. I fed the intent name for order t-shirts into my, might shut that extra tab, into my Lambda. And so I did an elif in Python to go, if the intent equals order t-shirts, then call this function that I just quickly mocked up. And this is just a test function at the moment. So all I want to see is I want to see all the slot data filled, and I'm just going to push that out as the response.
Yeah. So if all the slot data is filled, then we would do the integration to fulfill, but otherwise at the moment we're just sending it back.
Yeah, so of course there's one more intent that needs to be built, and that's kind of like capturing the person's shipping details, right?
Yeah.
But I'm going to go ICANN has large male t-shirt.
Large cat t-shirt.
And here we go. And break things in the last 4 minutes of stream. That's always great.
Yeah, it's
I
to
was
do with
being
the
ambitious.
validation.
Yeah, I reckon it's because it's looking for a string, and this is being fed back as an object. Yeah. So we need to basically string this in Python, right? So let me do that.
JSON.string. Oh wait, you're using Python.
No, I think I just do this if I remember correctly. Let's see. I'm back in the JavaScript train. It turns out over the next couple of weeks.
Are you?
I'm learning a new framework.
Well, I'm changing to Python then.
Okay, fine. That's it. I thought you were Rust now, and I was Flutter. But...
Yeah, Rust for the back end, Python for the front end.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go. Large male t-shirt. No. You know what? You know what? We probably should have a look at the logs rather than just guess our own mistakes.
Debugging? What do you mean?
Well, that's just brute force debugging, right? Just change a lot of things. We've all done that, but typically looking at the logs will help a lot.
Nah.
Invalid syntax.
Yeah, syntax error.
Line 111.
Oh, that wasn't the line that I wrote. Let's have a look.
Well, you probably pressed enter lots of times or something.
Okay.
The elif got the colon not at the end of the line. It's got the after there. Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
There we go. Pair programming at its finest. Solve that before the stream ends, hopefully.
At its finest would have been Paul and I seeing it as you typed it and telling you to fix it.
No, I would use AI for that, right? That would be like real time Code Guru.
Like Code Guru.
Yeah.
Well, a good linter would pick that up.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, not even a good any linter would probably pick that up.
A good programmer wouldn't have done it in the first place.
Yeah. So here we go. You're stringifying once, which is
yeah.
So I can see all of that, right? So what I can actually do is I might actually save this to start to send back to a database as I collect the order information.
Yeah.
This is all going to be there as well, I suspect. This context should be there as different slots that have been filled throughout the conversation if I use context.
Actually, I wouldn't send that data back to a database. What I would do is I would use that
address and everything
for the next one. Yeah, then you send it all together. Yeah.
And so let's plan for. I know we're right on time.
2 weeks time.
Yeah, I feel like in 2 or 3 weeks' time, because next week's event-driven something, which is going to be fun, and
event-driven design patterns.
Yep.
I need to start building out the UI for this, but we'll do this on stream. So maybe we can do that in 2 or 3 weeks' time, or we can do the order fulfillment stuff. So do the collect address, submit it to a database, and fulfill the order. Once all that's done, then we can do the front-end UI and how we integrate it all behind an API.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. We'll put in a very quick address intent, get the basics done. We'd send all this context in the Lambda that we've constructed to DynamoDB, build the UI. I reckon we've got about probably 2 or 3 sessions that we can walk through very slowly and kind of chat along on all this stuff as we go. But the next 2 weeks we've got special guests, which is cool. Event-driven architecture is going to be fantastic, and the one after that is something to do with machine learning, I believe. SageMaker pipelines, maybe, but don't quote me. Yeah. Excellent. Well, let's wrap it up. Thanks, everyone, for watching, and thanks for bearing through the AWS Twitch stream issues. I think we've had a bit of a flaky connection all day, and people were looking for Jeff Bezos, I saw on the chat earlier. But we'll say goodbye for now, and we'll see everyone at 12 p.m. AEST time. That's Australian, Melbourne, and Sydney time. Next week, Wednesday, for that event-driven architecture discussion. We've got a SME coming on board, and they're going to take us through some really cool things.
See you all next week.
Thanks
all.
Everyone.
Bye.